Hello, everyone. So glad you're here. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are finishing up a series, and I hope it entices you to want to go to our classroom and listen to the rest of them, because all of the trainings were fantastic. Really putting a strong focus on helping people understand the importance of leadership and accepting that role. We want to see the best come out of each and every one of you. And sometimes it's got to be, challenged. Sometimes it's got to be reminded. Sometimes it's got to be pulled. Sometimes it's got to be like an aha moment. And so that's going to continue to be something that we have a strong desire to make sure that you move into. And these chapters that we're going to discuss is really where the rubber meets the road. Like when in realistic terms, I hope that you've read them. If not, you're going to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. The book, if you don't know, is 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's a book by John Maxwell. Danny and I were introduced to this book 25 years ago, and it changed everything for us. Like, we really started to understand that it's not just about personal growth, but it's about growing as a leader, because the two go hand in hand. But there's the acceptance of, I am deciding to be a leader. Personal, we can do a lot of podcasts, we can do a lot of, self-help books, we can do a lot of different things to grow personally, but the decision to lead is the next step. And so that's always what we're hoping that you guys choose to do. Because when it comes to building a volunteer army like this, if you have a desire to build an army, if you have a desire to build an organization at whatever level, there is the reality of this acceptance to lead. And whatever way that looks like to you is the result that you'll get within your organization. And we're going to talk about some of that as we kind of unpack this today. I've got Kerri on here helping me co-host. So we're going to start with the law of explosive growth. And again, this is the one that I feel like literally it really says this is where the rubber meets the road, where you really are deciding to lead. Because there is no question that if we want to do something great here, we've got to make sure that we understand the importance of this. Because the law of explosive growth is something that we all want. Like, we all want explosive growth. And sometimes we look to the right or to the left and we go, why are they having all that growth? Why are they having all that growth? Why is everything happening for them and I'm not seeing it happening for me? Well, this is the reflection of what you need to understand about, okay, there's explosive growth because there's leadership. Because leading followers is incremental growth. Like we're going to have followers within our organization because there's a lot of people that become part of this incredible culture and this incredible community because they want to be a part of something positive and exciting. So we will have the followers, that there's no doubt about that. And we love them for any role that they want to take, because everybody matters, of course. But what we want people to understand is that, leading leaders is where exponential growth happens. Because ultimately what we want to do is we want the more leaders you have, the less work it is for you, because you've got people leading their own teams, because leaders do lead their own teams. So you want to see yourself replaced as a result of a leader. And so you're going to see that particular organization or that particular team starting to be handed off, so to speak, because the leader has arisen. And so now we've got people that are, also assisting in the calls, the Zooms, the questions, and all the other things that, the launches and the onboarding and all the other things that take place that leaders do. So all of that's fantastic. But we've got to decide that, I choose, and that's what I'm hoping that you do. I choose to be a leader today. So it's because there's not just a focus on enrolling people, because sometimes we can be so focused on just enrolling people that we're not slowing down long enough to to develop the leaders that enroll and teach more people, right? So if we're just like on to the next person and on to the next person. And we're not literally slowing down to be intentional about the person. This is the transferring skill thing and developing the leader within them, so that, they can also do the same, because this is what creates the duplication. Then you're going to continue to be looking for the next person. And that is not what you want to do in this type of industry. You want the leaders so that the multiplication, the explosive growth truly happens. So it's always understanding the importance of slowing down and helping those that you need to help understand what they need to understand, so that they can step into the role as a leader themselves. Now, that doesn't mean that we just hand them off. Okay, you got it. But it means that we're going to do our part, which is also the acceptance of, I'm willing to help somebody. So it's not just like, we have an environment for people to get success. Our system is impeccable. It is absolutely powerful. But if somebody doesn't lead them into the system, if somebody doesn't help them unpack the system, then they're never going to know how to transfer that skill themselves. So we've got to do our part when it comes to helping them onboard correctly, understand the system, and again, slowing down long enough to see that leader arise. And some will, some won't, some do, some don't. Like, you got to know that not everybody is going to decide to lead. It's just a fact, and that's okay. But you've got to see it for what it's worth, love them for where they're at. We are not anybody's boss. We will never tell anybody what they have to do, but we will challenge people if they tell us what they want. If somebody tells me what they want and what they desire and what their reason for doing this, then I'm going to be flat out honest and be that coach, which is a leader, because leaders are also coaches. So I'm going to be that coach to make sure that I'm leading them in the direction to get what I know that they need, or to do what I know they need to do to get what they want. So that's just the reality of, of the way it works. So, so true networkers build independent leaders. And if you don't have the book, I just recommend that you, even if you just, and if you do, I mean, it is just incredible. This particular chapter has so much fruit in it. A couple of things that I've highlighted is all good leaders have vision. So like understanding where is my vision? What's my vision leader look like? These are all also past chapters that we've also had. If you develop yourself, you can experience personal success. Okay, so that's great. Developing yourself gives you personal success. If you develop a team, your organization can experience growth. But if you develop leaders, your organization can achieve explosive growth. I think that's incredibly powerful. And it makes a lot of sense when you start to really understand what we're talking about here, because that is what we're all after. That's what we all want. But it is that reality that, okay, it's time to lead. It's time to make the decision to do what it takes to accomplish what I need to accomplish, and step up to make sure that I am, I'm responding according to what this chapter is talking about, because I don't just want to recruit, I want to reproduce. And that's important that we are reproducing, because this business is about people that know people that know people. If you impact one, you can impact more, because people continue to impact. But remember, if I can help somebody, if I can develop a skill in somebody, if I can help somebody move into that role as a leader, it is incredibly powerful what you will see within your organization. Because you can grow by addition, or you can explode by multiplication. And that is what we want. Because great leaders don't just create sales, they create a system. And we've got a system in place for anybody that wants to follow and just be a part. They've got it. Like we've got the Zooms, we've got the training modules, we've got, we've got our team community, we've got everything that any follower would be super excited about. But when it comes to a leader, then that's like outside of the system. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to assist so that I'm doing Zooms. I'm also doing phone calls. I'm also leading people in a direction. I may be even doing a team huddle, like, some of the other guys are doing. I may even be doing my own, Facebook group or my own text group, whatever I can do to lead and inspire and have my team see me as somebody that has a genuine desire for them to get success, not just enrolling them, plugging them into the system, and then, checking on them every once in a while to see if they need to reorder. That is not what we do as leaders. We are continuing to make sure that we stay focused on what's necessary to stay focused on. So, Kerri, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll just add, I can think back in my life. So we started this, I turned 25 on December the 31st, and then we got launched into John Maxwell's leadership training with the 21 laws of leadership. And we were young, and this was all new to us. And so I'm telling you, when the transition happened, I can put my finger on it, because it was 8 years in the business, and we had reached a level that was highly successful to what most people would think, but it was what I could handle. And for 8 years, though, I would pray every day, Lord, just show me the people who need me. And guess what? I got a lot of needy people.
Yeah.
And I remember the day specifically saying, Lord, show me the leaders who can touch the masses. And so for 8 years, we had stayed at this level. And then all of a sudden, in less than 2 years' time, we reached the top level. So what happened? I expanded my capacity, and we began to multiply, and now it was no longer me. It was other like-minded leaders that wanted to lead. And so, when we think about having that, our whole idea, what we want to make sure you understand is that everything we do, we want to transfer to others, because like Diane said, the followers are all in place, but our hope and goal is always who's going to rise up and be the next person who replaces us, right? Who are we transitioning this to? And it could be every single one of you. It's a decision. It is truly a decision to say, you know what, I'm going to give everything I have away, everything that I know. I want to pour in. I want to spend my time with people who want to grow and lead in a high capacity. And so sometimes, we get busy and we're pouring out to everyone. And so we've got to stop and go, wait, am I pouring out to the right ones? Am I really spending my time with the people who I need to spend it with, to equip them with the leadership they need? Because I'm telling you, exponential growth comes when you start to identify other leaders and you start to build them. And that's really what we've seen. And with, what Diane said about a vision is, when I started LifeWave, guys, I go back to, it was me with I see this for what it is, and I'm going to run in it, and I'm going to create the atmosphere, but I'm going to speak my vision, because instantaneously I knew that the words that had been spoken over me many years before, this was it, that I would create a minimum of 25 families earning $1 million a year or more with LifeWave. And I began to speak that. So who do you think started to rise up through that? The leaders saying, hey, I want to be one of those 25. So, and there's not just 25. I always make sure I say 25 or more, right? Because I believe there's way more than that with what we have our hands on, with our technology, with all the things. But the reality is if you don't speak a vision, then people don't raise their hand and say, hey, I want to be one of those. I want to run in that. And so, whatever your vision is, that's the one that God gave me. And I knew when LifeWave came into our life, it was the vehicle that we were going to fulfill that with. And so, but when you say things like that, there has to be action. Leaders always take action. You can't just sit around and wait for someone else to do it. And so, no matter what, whenever you're leading, just remember you're multiplying. But our whole idea is that we want to have the vision, and we want to always transfer what we have inside of us to the next person. And we don't do everything for everyone. There's going to be times where you hold people's hands. Don't take that black and white, right? Because some people are like, they can do their own stuff, and I'm like, well, there's still stuff that we'll do with people along the way, because I'm not going to let go of someone too soon. That's another thing that you really got to be able to recognize as a leader, is not letting go of someone or forcing them into doing something that they're not ready to do, because then they'll withdraw and they'll quit. So you see the greatness inside of a person, you begin to speak to that. And then as they step into it now, and that transfer takes place, you're going to see that they blossom instead of retract. And so that's what we want to make sure that, I always say is that you don't let go too soon, but you sometimes you're going to have somebody that comes into your life and you just need to get out of their way, and
Yeah,
don't be
exactly.
offended by that.
Exactly.
Because that's
Exactly. some leaders, well, they'll just run and they'll make a mess, because leaders do make a mess. I mean, because they have a lot of influence, they're about massive action, and they will just bring them in, bring them in, bring them in. And then there's you that is there to support, because you're also there to support as a leader. So and if they're jumping over you, like if let's say somebody's jumping over you and they're not calling you, but they're calling somebody else in your upline, then that's just a signal to know, okay, I've got to grow. And it's not, we can't be offended by that. We want leaders are going to attract to leaders. And if they don't see you as a leader yet, then that's your sign to rise up and become what somebody else needs, so that you can lead accordingly. But you may be in development and they're already developed, because we can attract leaders, but keeping them is another thing. That's why we always say, like, if you have somebody that you feel like, because it's the law of the lid, right? If you feel like you've attracted somebody that is personally grown and has that next level of success and that next level of leadership in comparison to where you are, because you're going to be real with yourself. And so, because they're usually on your chicken list, or they're usually that person that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, they've said yes. Okay, oh, here I go. Then you want to make sure and get them to one of your other leaders and your support team as quickly as possible. Do the introduction, because leaders attract to leaders. And if you don't get them to strength, then there's two things that happen. One is they take off and they just do it themselves. Which the leader's going to find them anyways. But the other is that they don't stay, because leaders are hard to keep, because if they don't see what they want to see, and they don't and things aren't unpacking like they would assume they were going to unpack, then they're going to go. That's why you got to make sure that you're doing the introductions and using the support team, because that's just the reality of how this works. So just know that it's all good. But these are little bitty things that are really, really good for you to understand as you're, growing yourself and growing your team, and knowing that, again, that you're accepting the reality that I do say yes to leading. And just like Kerri said, there's so much that we learned about this, early in direct sales, because we saw how it took place. Like, our founder was exceptional about seeing the leadership on somebody, because again, some people just have it on them. Maybe it's the way they were raised, maybe it's some of the things they went through, maybe it's just the personality that they grew up in, because they had to get it done. Whatever it is, some people are natural, they just are natural leaders. So he recognized leadership, and he was intentional about making sure that he gathered it, along with the fact that he challenged, very much so challenged. And we were starting to see, this is the first time that we had ever seen real leadership development by a very, very strong leader. And, some people were offended by it, and some people were attracted to it. There's going to be a difference, and that's where your followers will show up. And there's some that, the other ones will, lean in and rise to the occasion. So that's something that, you're just going to keep in mind.
Well, whenever we talk about the law of explosive growth and we talk about leadership, there's two big things that we have to master. Number one is priorities. When it comes to priorities as a leader, I'm talking about true leadership. I'm not talking about how the world views leadership. Leadership starts with God being first, your family being second, your current profession being third, and then everything else falls below that. So that's where leadership begins and ends. And so when we're talking about your specific endeavors, you've got to keep your priorities straight, because you lose your marriage in the pursuit of money, and you don't lose your family in the pursuit of money. That's not a leader. That's just a greedy human being that is not going to do well at the end, and their life is built on sand. Okay, so priorities are number one. But secondly, from an individual standpoint, you've got to, here's four big words for you. You want to write them down, and this is what it takes. Number one is capacity. You have to expand your capacity to grow. Everything in life is about becoming more. It's about who you become in the pursuit of that in which you're dreaming of. It's who you become. So because everything is about integrity and honor and moral excellence. So you want to work on, you always want to work on becoming more. And so how do we do that? We pray and we ask God to enlarge our capacity, and then we respond to the challenge. And and it's capacity, it's capacity to handle more responsibility, to not be overwhelmed and not get out of our priority list, but to be able to handle more, because you can handle more as a leader. Now, secondly, it's stability. Yeah, a leader has to be stable. If you're not stable, guys, the wolf can smell the wounded rabbit. And this is the way life is. If you're running around and you're in chaos and you're anxious and you're nervous and you're not stable, and if your marriage is on the rocks, I mean, everybody can smell it from a mile away. It comes out in your tone, it comes out in your just the energy, frequency, and vibration that your body puts off, because we're energy beings, we're spiritual beings, and it's the spiritual things that come off of us. And so you have to be stable. You have to become a stable human being. Okay. And so we become stable so that we can handle these next two things. So the third big word is adversity. To have explosive growth, you have to learn how to handle adversity. Life is going to come at you. Situations are going to come at you. Things change and things don't always look great. And you got to handle adversity. In 2003, in our first company, our check dropped in half. And when I mean half, I'm talking about from 2 million to 1 million in half in a year. So that's a big chunk. Okay, but it doesn't matter whether it's from 100,000 to 50,000, or from 20,000 to 10,000, or from 500,000 to 250,000, going from 2 to 1. That's a big chunk. And so how do you handle that adversity? Do you go whimper and cry and retreat and go lay in a grave because life happened? Or do you get up and you fight because you're a leader and you press forward and you get stuff done, keeping your priorities straight? Number 4, and the last one, is adaptability. Every great leader is adaptable and can pivot, because everything doesn't happen perfectly, whether we're in war, whether it's, in sports, whether it's in business, whether it's in church life, whether it doesn't matter what it is. Things don't always turn out exactly the way you want them to. And you have to learn how to adapt as a leader, and because God's got your back, but you've got to adapt, and you got to be able to say, you know what, that hasn't worked out the way I wanted it to. This back office is not looking like I want it to right now. Therefore, I've got to adapt. Or this particular part of the compensation plan is not working out the way I see it working out right now. I don't understand it completely. I've got to adapt. Or, you know, anything. Just think of, anytime, just like here lately, we've gone through a bunch of changes, which are extremely positive changes, but even in the midst of positive changes, there is adaptability that has to take place. And great leaders that want to explode their growth will adapt to the change. And a weak leader will just view it as something that's just they just can't handle it. It's just too much. I can't handle what's in front of me. Okay, so that all connects. I can't handle what's in front of me because I can't handle adversity. I can't handle what's in front of me because I'm not stable. I can't handle what's in front of me because I don't have the capacity to. So everything starts with capacity. It leads to stability, which leads to handling adversity, which leads to you being adaptable. And that will cause you to have explosive growth as a leader, because that will cause you to be the kind of leader that people are attracted to. And you'll attract leaders and not followers, and you will be a multiplier. And so there's the law of explosive growth summed up in a nutshell.